I am 31, and last month I asked my mother to move out of my house. The problem is that she moved in because I needed her. And now half my family thinks I used her until she became inconvenient. 2 years ago, I was in a cycling accident that damaged my hip and lower back. I can walk, but pain changes what I can do from day to day. Some mornings I am almost normal. Other mornings, putting on socks feels like a negotiation. Before the accident, I worked as a museum educator in Portland. Afterward, I reduced my hours and worked partly from home. That was when my recently divorced mother, Diane, offered to move in temporarily while I recovered. At first, I was grateful. She drove me to appointments. She cooked. She helped with laundry when bending was difficult. She also sat with me on the nights when I was frightened that the pain would never improve. I do not want to erase any of that. She showed up when I was scared. The temporary arrangement slowly became permanent. My mother sold most of her furniture and began calling my guest room her room. I did not object. She contributed toward groceries, and I liked having someone nearby. Then I met Aaron. Aaron is 34 and teaches middle school science. We started dating 8 months ago. He is patient without treating me like I am fragile. If I say I cannot go somewhere, he believes me. If I say I can, he does not hover. My mother liked him immediately, maybe too immediately. She started joining us whenever he came over. If we planned to cook, she often ordered food first. If we watched a film, she sat between us because her chair had the best angle. She asked about Aaron's previous marriage, salary, and whether he wanted children. When I told her to stop, she laughed and said she was only protecting me. Aaron usually answered politely. Later, I would apologize. He would say, "She worries about you." That sentence started bothering me because it excused almost everything. My mother also began correcting me in front of him. If I said my pain was bad, she said, "It was worse last week." If I said I had completed a work project, she reminded him that she had brought me lunch during it. If I told a story from childhood, she changed details until I sounded confused. Each incident was small enough that challenging it made me look overly sensitive. Once, Aaron asked whether I wanted to attend a crowded street festival. I said no because standing that long would hurt. My mother said, "She says no before she even tries." Aaron looked uncomfortable and changed the subject. Later, I asked why he had not defended me. He said, "I did not know whether she was joking." I said, "She wasn't." Around that time, I noticed that Aaron's words and actions did not always match. Nothing dramatic. He would promise a quiet evening, then invite coworkers without mentioning it. He would offer to drive me to therapy, then act surprised when I reminded him. He once told me he had stopped discussing our relationship with his ex-wife. A week later, he casually mentioned that she thought my mother was too involved. When I asked how his ex knew anything about my mother, he said they still talked about important life changes. He insisted it was harmless. Maybe it was. But I began feeling that people said whatever made the current moment easier, then expected me to forget it later. The worst incident happened after a procedure on my hip. It was outpatient, but I reacted badly to the medication and had to stay overnight. Aaron took me to the clinic. My mother arrived an hour later. I was groggy, nauseated, and embarrassed because I needed help getting to the bathroom. I asked the nurse if Aaron could stay while we discussed the discharge plan. Before he answered, my mother said, "I am the one who actually knows her medical history." Then she handed the nurse a folder. She had printed old appointment summaries, medication lists, and notes about my pain. Some notes were hers, including, "She overdoes it to impress people," and "She minimizes symptoms around boyfriend." I had never seen them. I asked her why she had written those things. She said, "Because someone has to tell the truth." Aaron did not say anything. The nurse asked both of them to step outside while she examined me. When they left, I started crying. Some notes were not completely false. I did push too hard because I hated disappointing people. But seeing my life documented by my mother made me feel like a case she managed instead of a daughter. When Aaron came back, he said my mother was frightened. I said, "I am frightened too." He said, "She thinks you hide how bad things are." I asked, "Do you think that?" He hesitated. That hesitation hurt more than a direct answer. Then he said, "Sometimes I'm not sure what version is accurate." I asked whose version he trusted. He said he did not want to choose sides, but refusing to choose felt like choosing the person who spoke with more confidence. After I came home, my mother became even more involved. She reminded me about medication, told Aaron when I slept badly, and asked him to encourage me to walk more. I told her to stop discussing my health with him. She apologized. For about 10 days, she stopped. Then I learned she had been texting him privately. Aaron left his phone on the kitchen counter while he showered. A message appeared from my mother. It said, "She is pretending to be fine again. Please do not let her cancel tomorrow." I did not open the phone. I did not need to. When Aaron came back, I asked how long they had been discussing me. He looked ashamed. He said, "Your mother asked for help." I said, "Did I ask?" He said, "No, but we both care about you." I asked to see the messages. He refused because they included private things about her divorce and fears. That meant their relationship had grown beyond concern for me. They had created a private alliance around the idea that I could not be trusted to understand my own life. I confronted my mother. She said I was being unfair. She reminded me of every appointment she had attended and every meal she had cooked. Then she said, "You would not have recovered this far without me." I told her that might be true. She looked surprised. I said, "But helping me does not make you the owner of me." She started crying. Then she said, "Fine, I am a terrible mother." It turned a specific boundary into a trial of her character. Suddenly I was comforting her again. That night, Aaron said I had been too harsh. He said my mother had given up her home to help me. I said she had also needed somewhere to go after her divorce. He said that sounded ungrateful. I asked him whether he understood why the messages upset me. He said yes. Then he added, "But you do shut people out when you are overwhelmed." I said, "Needing privacy is not shutting people out." He said, "Sometimes it is hard to tell the difference." That was the moment I realized the central problem was not one secret text conversation. Both believed care gave them permission to overrule me. I had helped teach them that by accepting it. I told my mother she needed to find another place to live. I gave her 60 days. I offered to help with deposits and moving costs. She said I was throwing her away because I had a boyfriend now. Aaron said he did not want to be the reason she lost her home. I told him he was not the reason. Then I asked him to leave too. Not forever, just for the night. He said, "You are proving our point. The second people challenge you, you cut them off." I said, "No. The second people ignore my no, I create distance." For the next week, my mother barely spoke to me. She told my aunt that I had become cold since the accident. My aunt called and said my mother had sacrificed everything. I asked what exactly she had sacrificed. My aunt listed time, privacy, and independence. I said, "Those are also the things I am asking to have back." She had no answer. Update 1. Aaron and I met at a coffee shop. He had read through his messages with my mother. He admitted the conversation had crossed a line. They had discussed my medication, mood, our arguments, and whether I could make decisions on painful days. He said he had told himself he was gathering context. Then he said, "I think I liked being treated like the reasonable one." That honesty mattered. He apologized without asking me to reassure him. I said one apology would not restore trust. We are still together, but slowing down. He no longer communicates with my mother privately. I do not know yet whether that will be enough. Update 2. My mother moved into a small apartment 15 minutes away. The move was awful. She cried while packing the folder from the hospital. I asked whether she understood why it hurt me. She said, "I was afraid something would happen and nobody would believe me." That was the first time I understood part of her behavior differently. Years ago, doctors dismissed my mother's concerns about my sick grandmother until the situation became serious. She learned that being loud and prepared could protect someone. The problem was that she never learned when protection became control. We are not fully reconciled. She still believes I underestimate my limitations. I still believe she uses fear to justify crossing boundaries. But last Sunday, she came over for lunch. She asked before helping me carry a pot. When I said I had it, she let go. It was a tiny moment. It also felt enormous. Some people will say I punished those who cared most. Others will say I waited too long. The truth is that my mother helped me survive a terrible period. Aaron made me feel wanted when I no longer felt at home in my own body. Neither of those things cancels what they did. And what they did does not erase every good thing between us. That is what makes boundaries so painful. They are rarely needed with people who mean nothing to us. So, was I wrong to ask my mother to leave and nearly end my relationship over private messages? Or was that the only way to remind everyone, including myself, that needing help did not mean giving up the right to decide my own life?